And I think there's a couple of things that people do on a regular basis, I believe, that prevent them from being happy. Because happiness is very fragile. Happiness is one of those things that is a combination of small efforts. But there's little things that people do on a regular basis that prevent them from being happy, that rob them of their happiness. And one of the main things that rob people of happiness is not living a life on their own terms. Living their lives for the expectations, the pleasure, the acceptance of others. There's a famous quote: "If you live for the acceptance of others, you will die by their rejection." There's so many people that live their entire life to please other people. They live their entire life to impress other people. They live their entire lives by the standards other people have put on them. They never take into consideration the things that they want. They're not doing the things they want. They're doing the things that look good to other people. They're not even doing things that feel good to them. They're doing things that look good to other people. Imagine living your entire life on someone else's terms. How do you expect to be happy? That's almost like, great analogy for this, almost like going to a restaurant, right? And every time you go out to eat, someone else with a different set of taste buds gets to pick your meal. And you're supposed to sit there and enjoy it and savor it. How's that going to work out? You wouldn't do that, but yet a lot of people live their lives entirely for the pleasure of other people. Imagine literally going to a restaurant and having someone pick your meal. Every time. All the time. Every day. And it extends to way more than just, when you think about it, most people don't even dress to please themselves. They dress to please other people. They do jobs for the pleasure of other people. They live in certain places for the pleasure of other people. And by the pleasure, I mean to impress people. Because you know what? This is what looks good. They spend an inordinate amount of money on things just because other people think it's cool. And a lot of times what happens over time, they also convince themselves that this is what I want. Because this is what I want to wear. But actually it's not. You got that idea from someone else. That idea was not from you. Once again, if you live your life for the pleasure, for the acceptance of other people, you would die from their rejection. And you see it all the time because those very same people, they are always so put off when people don't acknowledge certain things. They don't acknowledge the clothes they have on. They don't acknowledge the shoes. They don't acknowledge the purse. They don't acknowledge the car. They don't acknowledge where they live. They always talk about these things that they have. Why? Because they're looking for acceptance. They're looking for those things to make you like them more. People always lead with what they do for a living. Why? That's to gain acceptance, to gain favor. Because when you're truly living a life that you want, you don't really care. I've seen some people, I know some people who have their own mind. They dress their own way. And to us, they look weird. To a lot of people, they look kind of different because of the way they dress. But that's how they want to dress. But society sometimes tends to shun those people. But those people are actually the happiest people because they're living lives on their own terms. They're living lives on their own terms. One thing I know, I don't understand sometimes. I look at some clothing that people wear, right? That is trendy. And man, it looks uncomfortable. But that's just me. That's just me saying it. But I hope that you really want to wear that. I hope that is something that you really, really want to wear. Because if it's not, it's kind of sad that you put yourself through to torture just because of how other people will look at you with that on. but it extends to an entire life. So think about it. A lot of people wear extremely high heels, or extremely tight clothing that is uncomfortable, and to the point where when they get home they can't wait to take it off. But imagine that spreading out to your whole life. The only difference is that for your whole life, if you're doing that with your whole life, you can't take your life off. The only thing you can do is be unhappy with it. And that's why a lot of people are unhappy. But there are basically 9 things that keep people, that I found, 9 basic things that I found that keep people from being happy. The first one, obviously, is, living life for the approval of others. Okay. The next one is the need to be right. You don't have to be right all the time. Sometimes you have to learn how to let people do what they have to do. So even with me, like, I look at certain things like that, just, hey, it is what it is, if you like that. Living in the past, that's another thing that holds a lot of people back. They stay stuck in the past. They stay stuck on things that are gone. I heard this quote one time is, let go of the things that have already let you go. Because the past has let you go, trust me. The past, so it might have some lingering effects, but the actual event has already let you go. You have to find a way to make peace with that and let it go. Because if you live in your past, you will ruin your future. It takes a lot of energy to live in the past. It takes a lot of it takes a lot of your energy and focus, guys. Learn how to just let it go. Learn how to let it go. Another thing that's sort of kind of attached to that, because the reason why people live in the past and beat themselves up about mistakes in the past is, the other reason, you're not perfect. The need to be perfect, understand and embrace the fact that you're not perfect, that you make mistakes. I make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. As a matter of fact, somebody asked me, how come I'm so, how come you're so wise? I said, because I was dumb for a long time. I made a lot of mistakes. But the only difference between living a smart life and living a good life and continuing to repeat your mistakes is when you make a mistake, you have to have the character enough to admit your mistakes. You have to be big enough to say, you know what, that was wrong. That's the only way you change it. If you don't acknowledge your mistakes, you go along and you keep making the mistakes. You keep doing it. A mistake not corrected will be repeated. Because every time you come to that particular type of situation, you will continue to make the same mistake until you acknowledge and change. And that's how life is. Life will keep giving you that same test, and you'll keep coming back with an F until you learn. The other thing is resisting change, which is tied to being perfect, because you know what? When you realize that you make a mistake and you acknowledge it, that is an opportunity for you to change. That's an opportunity for you to take a different direction. That's an opportunity to acknowledge your flaw, right? And seek improvement. We can all improve in every facet of our lives. I don't care what it is that you do. I don't care who you are. Every single facet of your life you can improve. You can improve yourself mentally, physically. You can be a better person, a better friend, a better husband, wife. You can be, a better employee. You can be a better boss. You can always improve. And if you take the time to step outside of yourself and not focus so much on being perfect or thinking that you're perfect, you will leave room for improvement. It's like we talked about yesterday, right? The seeking of improvement is the acknowledgement of growth and the possibility of growth. Once you can acknowledge that you have the possibility of growth, you will always seek growth, and growth you will always find. Okay? Growth you will always find. The other thing is negative self-talk, which is sometimes go back to this perfect thing again. Because once again, this need to be perfect, this need to be right is a killer. Negative self-talk is a lot of times people beat themselves up for mistakes that they've made. People beat themselves up for shortcomings they believe they have. Everything that you say to yourself, you hear. I know it sounds funny, but everything that you say to yourself, you hear. And most of the things you hear, you say to yourself, you tend to believe. Most of the times, it's not who you are that holds you back. It's who you think you're not. A lot of people tell themselves, I'm not that good. I'm not that smart. I'm not that good looking. I'm not this, I'm not that. Well, after a while, those things, they add up. They add up and they seep in. So you give the outward projection of being perfect, but the whole time you have this track running in your background telling you who you're not. And that creates, an imbalance in your life. It does not promote harmony, and that comes out in the form of you not being happy. Now, you not being content, you not being able to enjoy your life. So you know what? Let go of the negative self-talk. That's one of the things that will kill you. And tied to that negative self-talk is the next thing is limiting beliefs. Once again, like I said, it's not who you are that holds you back. It's who you think you're not. A lot of times people have now convinced themselves that they're not good enough. They're not this. A lot of times, sometimes people have convinced themselves that the life they live, this existence to pay bills and die, this is what their life is supposed to be about. And it's not. But you have limited your own possibilities with the things you think. You have now got yourself stuck in this rut because you refuse to believe in your possibilities. Most people believe in their limitations more than their possibilities. What if you actually believed in your possibilities? Because I told you, you can't go anywhere your mind hasn't already gone. If every time you're about to make a move, the first thing that comes up is your limits, how can you ever grow? How can you ever believe that you're ever going to be happy? How can you ever expand yourself? Stop limiting yourself. There's a lot of things in this world that are going to be impediments in your life. You don't have to be one of them. Stop limiting yourself. Stop limiting yourself. The other thing is, stop blaming other people for your problems. Okay? Stop blaming people for your problems. You know what? People do bad things. You've done bad things to people. I don't think a single person on this planet, I know maybe one or two people in my entire life, I think I had a godmother and an aunt, that I think are saints, okay, that I've never seen them or never heard about them doing anything wrong to anyone ever, okay? But most of us are flawed. All of us are flawed. And you know what? I believe even they are flawed. We just don't see it. But stop blaming people for the things that happen. Stop blaming people for the things they did to you in the past. This goes back against that living in the past thing. Let it go. I was going through a rough patch in my life maybe about 10 years ago, 12 years ago or so, maybe. And I was having a conversation with an older man, and he said, you know what? One of the things you have to learn in life is it doesn't matter what anybody did to you. He said, it doesn't matter. I don't care what they did to you. Find out what you did, however limited, what part you played, and forgive yourself for putting yourself in that position. Let it go and move on. And I said to him, but what if I didn't do anything? He said, even better. If you didn't do anything, why are you so hung up on it? You couldn't have changed it. What you can change is how it affects you in the future. Stop living in the past, guys. Everybody has things that has happened to them in the past. But when that thing has happened and is gone, You have to let it go. Stop blaming your parents. Stop blaming someone who did you wrong. Stop blaming, even if somebody, somebody did something really bad to you as a child. You're an adult now. You understand that that person was the one that was flawed, not you. That person did the negative thing, not you. But that person has no more power to do that over to you again. Now you're the one who are victimizing yourself every day. Let it go. Stop blaming people. Your actions of today have nothing to do with what happened in the past. Because that person, that thing, that event is no longer, it has ceased to exist. It's in the past. It can't do anything to you in the past. You're the one who keeps dragging it up with you. When you let it go, you will see that it is in the past. It's done. And you can move on with the rest of your life. And last but not least, stop complaining so much. Imagine what would happen if you spent an entire week of your life and didn't complain about anything. I did that exercise one time. And it's great. Every time I was tempted to complain, I had to think about 2 or 3 things that I was happy about. And if you can't think of anything, you know what? Be happy for the fact that, I'm alive and I can complain. That's a luxury that a lot of people don't have. I mean, look around the world right now. Look how many people are dying. Young, old, supposedly healthy. And you're complaining. Stop complaining so much. Be grateful. That's the 10th thing. Lack of gratitude. Stop complaining and be grateful. Be grateful for what you have. Be grateful for the problems you do not have. And watch your life open up. But those are the things that I feel, in a nutshell, that keep people from being happy. If you can consciously work on those things, you'll see your life will open up, because you'll, number one, be living life on your own terms. You won't be so heavily invested in what other people have to say. Your past won't be your prison. You'll be grateful for the chances that you have. You'll be open to new possibilities. And you'll be happy. Because you won't stay stuck on stuff. So that's all I have for you guys for this Friday, guys. Once again, remember, your life is your life. Live it on your terms. Do the things that you want to do. Because when it's all said and done, like my dad used to say, the only person that's guaranteed to be with you your whole life is you. And you have to sleep with you. So make sure that you're living a life that you like. Make sure that you're living a life that you can tolerate. Make sure that you're eating a meal of life that you want. Once again, imagine going to a restaurant. Imagine living your entire life and you can only eat what someone else prescribes for you. You never get to eat what you really want. What kind of existence is that? Where you have to eat what other people want you to eat. That is the same thing as living your life to please other people. Who does that? And who's going to enjoy that most especially? Because a lot of people do it all the time. And they wonder why they're not happy. They wonder why they're not happy. But it's very simple, guys. Pick your life. Live your life. Make sure that you're a good person. Make sure that you are making a positive contribution to people around you. But do it on your terms. And if that life means that, you're going to quit your lawyer position and bake cookies, then you do that. I know a friend of mine who, real story, she was a corporate attorney. And somehow she just didn't like it. It wasn't bringing her what she wanted. And her mother had a great cookie recipe. And She started to bake cookies in her spare time. And she liked it so much that she noticed that the level of satisfaction that she had from doing that. And so she took her energy that she was putting into her corporate job and started to slowly move it over, to baking. Long story short now, that's what she does. And she has $1 million company baking cookies. Maybe your life may not be that fantastic. Maybe your change may not be that fantastic, but the feeling will be. The feeling of satisfaction, the feeling of living life on your own terms. The feeling of being happy with you and what you choose to do. And not have to live by somebody else's checklist of what you should do.